this is Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the Wedding Duo. We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with the Wedding Duo. Welcome back. Welcome again. If this is the first time you have found us, this is the Wedding Duo podcast. I'm Dominic. I'm a wedding DJ.
I am Serena. I'm a wedding planner. You may know us from TikTok, where we are the Wedding Duo. We are also the owners of At Last Entertainment and Events, which is a local wedding planning and DJ service in San Antonio, Texas.
And today we are talking about the options you might come across while planning the big day. And this is on the actual day. The first few episodes, which are already out. If this is the first one you've stumbled onto, we have several other ones. This is number 4, correct? Mm-hmm. But the other ones kind of started from the beginning. You just got engaged. You're looking for vendors. You're trying to find your wedding date. But a lot of you that follow us, I know you're further past that. You're like, that's great. Thanks for the tips. I'm already past that. That would have been nice to know when I got the ring on my finger. But here we are further down the line. But if you're still following us and you haven't not got married yet, this is stuff that may help, because this is stuff revolving around the actual day where you're going to put the rings on each other's fingers.
Yes, say I do, which is what we're talking about. So the first topic, which is a big one, this is a huge topic amongst brides and vendors, is the first look.
First look. Do you want to do a first look or not?
Yes.
Tell them what it is. What's the first look?
I know. I was going to say, so first of all, for some of you that may not know, a first look is an option to have your groom or your significant other see you in your dress before the ceremony. So a lot of times the photographer will take the groom, put them in a beautiful setting. The bride will walk up all done up, tap them on the shoulder. They'll turn around. Ta-da!
There it is, the first look. People do it with their dad sometimes. If you're close with your dad, the bride will walk up and do a first look with the father of the bride. I've seen it done with bridesmaids, where you get dressed in the other room and then you walk in and they all turn around and go, "Oh my God, you look good." Or
that's a lot of fun.
But it really is a lot of people are like, "Oh, we got to do a first look." Or the people are like, "Absolutely not. I want to see me in that dress," because all the cloak and dagger, all the secrecy, all the jokes, "Oh, you're dressed with the big butt bow or the shoulder pads or whatever." Ha ha ha. He's like, I don't get to know what the dress is about. That's the big moment, right? Like, all the hair and makeup is done. You got your shoes on, you got your dress on, and now here it is. Because that's really, I know people, there's all these conversations about why your gender gets dressed up. Is it for each other? Is it for a man? But hopefully that dress is on for the person you're about to marry, right?
Right. Absolutely. And something that's valuable to talk about when we're talking about the first look is there's a great value in getting photos out of the way. So not only do you get a chance to have this moment, which in my opinion is its own moment, really. It's a moment for just the two of you to see each other. And it can be really helpful in the anxiety stress category.
Oh, for sure.
Because if you're anything like us in our relationship, Dominic is so much of my rock that if I'm stressed, if I'm upset about something, I lean on him very heavily for emotional support. So if you're really, if you're really anxious beforehand and you want to see your soon-to-be spouse, and that will help you feel better about going down the aisle, that's all the more reason. But the photos too are a huge piece of it, because if you're worried about not having enough time after the ceremony to take photos of just the two of you, or of you and your bridesmaids and groomsmen as a group, you can do those pictures beforehand by doing a first look.
Yeah, because those are, arguably why you hired the photographer in the first place, right? To get pictures of the two of you on your wedding day. But if you have a huge shot list, meaning you told your photographer, here's all these pictures I want to get, because all people come to weddings that don't come to backyard barbecues and birthday parties, right? So everybody's there. You want those shots of the whole generations, maybe, right? But if there's just a ton of pictures and you're like, holy cow, cocktail hour is only an hour. That's the hour we're supposed to get all these pictures in. Maybe that's another thing to consider. Maybe we do a first look and we get a lot of the bride and groom pictures or the couple pictures done prior to the ceremony.
Exactly. So there is no right or wrong way. And we should preface this episode by saying that anything we say here can be taken and thrown in the trash, because it is your day. It is absolutely up to you. Weddings are very personal, and there may be really good reasons for doing something or not doing something that we don't discuss here.
Yeah. So really, we're just talking about the pros and cons of each. And then it's up to you to say, Interesting. Thank you for the input. I don't want to do that. You're like, okay, it's
Yeah.
your day.
Exactly.
So if you and I were going down the aisle today, like for us, this is my personal opinion. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I kind of like the idea of I don't get to see you until you're walking down the aisle to me. But to your earlier point, they're two different things. Like it's like that'll still be an emotional moment because your family is there. Everyone's going to stand up. You come around the corner with your dad. Like, oh my God, like it's still going to be incredibly powerful with or without a first look.
Right.
So, but I really think it's nice sometimes to, if you're just a ball of stress and your anxiety is going through the roof, like maybe just plan to do a first look because that'll help kind of just like, okay, now he's seen me. Now let's get this whole ceremony going.
Yeah. And a few other alternatives to the first look that have been discussed, maybe with your photographer, if you've seen them on social media. You can do a first touch, like if there's a corner of the building and you guys can just hold hands, maybe read something to each other. That is very sweet. That's a very wonderful photo.
Oh my gosh.
You can do something like that too. So there are variants on all of these things that we're discussing.
People have done personal vows there, like, because they want to do personal vows. They want to like say what they want to say from their heart, but they just can't do it. It's a big ask to do it in front of all your family and friends with a microphone. And you just don't want to be sobbing in front of your, you don't want to get an ugly cry at the altar. Right. But, so they've done that before too, where they read their vows to each other while they're holding hands around a corner or around a tree. And oh my gosh, that's a pretty
wonderful
fantastic moment.
And then you don't actually see each other. You just have that first touch.
But you got that. It's still helping with all the things we talked about, the stress and all that stuff. Yeah. You just get to hold hands for a minute and been like, okay, how you doing? I'm fine. I don't know. I'm not. I'm stressed. We're good. Everybody's showing up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But
the next thing we're going to discuss is some ceremony options. So actually, how do you get everyone to the altar? You could have a huge wedding party and you want grandparents, you want parents, you want everyone involved, or you can have just a few people. And there are a lot of different options for how to go about that.
It's ridiculous how much it varies. I had 2 weddings this past weekend. One of them, best man, maid of honor, and the couple were the only 2 that went down the aisle. And the other one had
a lot.
15, I think.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. There were like 3 flower girls, 2 junior bridesmaids, 2 ring bearers, and then grandparents went down with the parents too. So there's a lot. So every wedding, again, is going to be different. Every ceremony is going to be different. Sometimes you're going to have a different guest count. That's going to be a factor, all that stuff. But because sometimes if there's that many more people there, maybe, let's have Uncle Charlie and Aunt Barb go down the aisle. I mean, who knows? Because godparents, I've had godparents go down the aisle. Yes. Sponsors, some cultures have sponsors.
Right.
They may be going down the aisle as well. So one thing I think is really cute, maybe that's not the word since I'm talking about the groomsmen, but if you're just doing it, if, let's say parents are not going down the aisle and or just to get the groom, the officiant, and your groomsmen down the aisle, people always think like, the groomsmen have to walk with the bridesmaids. Not necessarily. I think it's really cool where the groom and the officiant are shoulder to shoulder and they walk down and 2 steps behind him is the best man. 2 steps behind him is the next groomsman. And all the guys are kind of like ducks in a row. And so the officiant and the groom walk up to the aisle. He turns around, does an about face. He gives the bro hugs. Everybody, love you, man. Love you, man. They get and then, so they all get their hugs in and the guys line up and the guys are up there because the guys were just told to wear what the guy next to him was wearing. I was like, here, put this on. We rented this for you. Whereas the girls took months picking out the dress, the color, the shoes, the hair and makeup, the flowers. So everything was picked out meticulously. And they can walk down like, oh yeah, I'm going down by myself because I want everyone to see all the details that went into this outfit I'm wearing right here. So you don't have to necessarily have your wedding party coupled up.
That also works really well if you have an uneven amount of groomsmen and bridesmaids. I've had couples really worry about like, how are we going to pair everyone up? Is someone going to have to go with 3 people? You don't necessarily have to do pairs. You can have everybody go down single file.
After you can still recess that way where you have one guy with 2 girls or vice versa.
Yes, that works as well because it does work on the recessional to have everyone pair up and kind of go back down the aisle. But definitely for processing down the aisle, you don't have to pair up if you have an uneven group or you just like the way it looks.
Yeah. Some people just have the officiate, the groom, and the groomsman just up there. They just kind of meander in from the side. And again, this is just my opinion, but the groom is half this relationship, right? So, or the soon-to-be spouse, I mean, I think they should go down the aisle as well. I like when they come down the aisle. I don't like when they just go, we just come in from the side in the broom closet. That's where the bathroom is. We're just waiting in the bathroom. We just come. I'm like, no, let them Let them come down the aisle as well.
Yeah, and give them their own song, for goodness sakes, if you
Absolutely.
want, right? That's another great option that we've talked a lot about on TikTok recently.
And we're going to be doing a whole video on just the music selection, so stand by for that.
Stand by for more music. But so prior to that, a lot of conversations come up about who else goes down the aisle. So you can definitely have grandparents, like he said, sponsors. And then, of course, if you want the groom to walk down not with the officiant, they can walk down with mom.
His mom.
Or both parents. Or both moms. Sometimes I've seen where the groom walks with the mother of the bride and his mom. And that's a lovely way to do it.
Why is that? Why is that? Because where's the father of the bride?
Well, traditionally, the father of the bride is with the bride.
Yeah.
And he goes down with her. So then mom also gets to be part of the processional by walking with the groom. And that's lovely as well.
It's really lovely because it kind of shows the coming together of the families, especially if you guys have known each other. I mean, if you just met your mom, or he just met the bride's mom, like maybe recently, maybe they didn't grow up in the same spots. Maybe they met later in life, right? But if, this past wedding, I mean, they knew each other. They were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
They knew each other. He was like,
part of the family already.
Yeah, he was part of the family. That was like his second mom. And we know people like that, right? Everybody knows people like that. They just have known each other a long time. It's very sweet. He walks up there with both moms, hugs mom actual, hugs mom-in-law. They sit down and then he goes and takes his position. And then maybe they come out coupled up as well.
Right. And then we talked a little bit about how to get the groomsmen bridesmaids. But after that, traditionally, you're going to have the flower girl ring bearer, and you may have multiple. I will give a bit of advice. If you have little ones, and I'm talking like 5 and under, you're really going to want to think through how to get them up to the altar, because I have had so many situations where I am in the ceremony photos because as a wedding planner, I am helping escort them up to the altar, or trying to find someone so that they notice someone they recognize.
Because even if at the rehearsal they were fine, you bring 200 people in there and they all turn and stare and they all go, oh, look at you. And then now she just gets stage fright, or he, and they just freeze up. It's a big ask for a little person. She's 3 and she's by herself.
Right.
I mean, and then 3-year-olds never walk anywhere by themselves. They're always holding on to somebody's little hand, right? So it's a lot to do that. But yeah, to your point, have somebody at the end of the aisle that knows them.
Right, that they recognize. And the other thing you can do is group them together. So there's, more comfort in numbers. They can all go down as a group if you're okay with that. You can put the little ones like in a wagon. We've seen people drive up in electric cars, like something so that they are comfortable, I think is the biggest piece if they're young.
Yeah, the wagon. I mean, I love the wagon. There's a little sign. There comes the bride on the back as they go down the aisle. The cars are very cute. It's a very different thing, but it's very cute. And Lord knows TikTok loves the cars. We've done several videos on that and they always do really well because people are like, oh my God, I never thought of that.
It's adorable. And then the kids just think it's another play day. But the other thing that comes up quite often is for the ring bearer, like, does the ring bearer actually hold the rings? Do you know the answer to this?
Hopefully not. Not very often. There are times where they actually tie the rings to that little pillow and he's flipping around. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
He's going to, the rings are going to be in the gutter or in the tree line in no time when he's flinging that pillow around.
Well, traditionally, if they have a pillow or a box or something like that, and they are older, like if they're in the 10 to 14 range.
Or even 7 and up.
Yeah, they can maybe be responsible for the rings, but I do like to usually give them to the best man, just so we make sure they make it up there.
Some other things to consider about whether or not to have your wedding party coupled up is, are they walking on something other than a sidewalk or paved? If they're walking on cobblestones and it's pretty wobbly, maybe the ladies, if they're in heels, they want to have an arm to hold on to.
Correct.
If they're going downstairs, maybe that's something else to consider. Maybe they want to have somebody to hold on to. If the dresses are just a tripping hazard and everybody like been falling everywhere, maybe that's another reason to have somebody hold on to their arm. So there's a lot of other factors that may come into your particular wedding.
Absolutely. So you're going to want to think through that. And a lot of times we'll talk through it at the rehearsal. You can see it done different ways, and then you get a good idea of what really makes sense for your venue, for the length of the walk, for the, like you said, if you're walking on grass or gravel or whatever the material is.
Because you're going to get there and you're going to be like, or just something in your head, you vision it and you're like, oh, this is exactly how we're doing it. And you get there and you go, yeah, I just don't like it. I don't, it's clunky. It's awkward. Work. Oh, and one other thing I meant to mention is Let's say father of the bride wants to walk his wife down there, the bride's mom maybe. Again, there's no rules. He can walk his wife down, sit down, and then they loop back around. Or you have an usher, you have a brother, maybe they walk somebody else down. So you can bring other people in that just so the mother of the bride doesn't walk down by herself.
Correct.
Or I've seen it where the groom walks his mom and then the father of the groom is just behind him. I'm like, you can walk down and have people come around the side if there's room. They don't have to go up the aisle and then that's it. You get one trip down the aisle. There's been all kinds of different ways. Just do what's right for you.
Yes. And it's going to be different based on varying factors. So the next topic of discussion is,
let's talk about this new trend. And I think it's relatively new where the bride and groom eat alone, or the couple eats alone before being introduced into the room, which at first I thought, what? Like, you invited all your family and friends here and you're not even going to sit down and eat with them? Like, there's a sweetheart table. It's decorated. You went to great lengths to decorate this table. And there have been nights where they don't even sit there, like at all. So that was where my head went first. However, if your sweetheart table or your head table is right next to the buffet, good Lord, the couple can't get 3 bites in their mouth and everybody's lined up. Oh my God. And they get stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. There's just they just don't get a chance to eat. They don't get a chance to eat or catch their breath or anything.
Right. I definitely will run interference as a planner. I know to expect this.
Yep.
And I will stand there like a security guard and say, can we just give them a moment? They need to get a little bit of their meal, just to make sure that then you can go table to table and talk to everyone if that's what you've decided to do.
Yeah, everybody wants a selfie and you've got a mouthful of chicken. You're like, really? And the groom has ranch on his cheek. You're like, oh my gosh, right? Like, everybody, let them eat. Let these two eat.
But to his earlier point, like, if you can get away for 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes and get something to eat, take a moment. What do you always say? Look at your hands and say, look what happened, husband. I
do say that. I do say that a lot.
And just get a breather, don't expect to be able to be there for an hour maybe, because your guests will get antsy and it can be kind of awkward if you're not in the space with them. But it definitely can be a good option if there's a room available and you have someone there that can serve you the food. You can sit down for 15, 20 minutes, get something to eat, take a break, and then go back and join.
Yeah. And that's really what it is. It's really, if you're like, I really want to eat, I need to eat because you've been starving yourself for 6 months to fit in. Like, here I am finally
Hopefully
there.
not.
Hopefully
no,
not.
don't
Hopefully
do that.
Not. Don't do that. But it's, and you spend all this time picking out the food and then you don't get a chance to eat it. That's not an option. You don't want to not eat. I definitely always say, like, make sure you eat. But some people also, they're weird eating in front of everybody. They don't want to drop something on their dress. So go behind the scenes, sit down, eat like you're famished, like stuff in your face, and then take a minute, put the lipstick back on.
Yeah.
Make sure, you can, I've had them where they like literally wear like a bib or put something over the dress so they can eat so it doesn't get on the dress. And then you get back up and you're like, okay, put the lipstick back on. Are we good? Okay, you got some in your teeth? Okay, we're good. And then go back out. And then you can still use the sweetheart table for toasts, or you can still sit there for a minute if you want to, like, just sit down and have a drink and just kind of say, look at what we've created.
Yes. Everyone is here for us. So those are kind of the pros and cons of doing something like that. Something else that comes up, we're going to move on. And this is a big one. I have this conversation every single initial meeting with my couples when we're starting to talk logistics, like the timeline. The big decision: do you do your first dance and the spotlight dances after introductions or after dinner?
Here we go.
Dun.
I get a little passionate about this one.
He does.
So again, this is definitely another one where there's no right or wrong way to do it. But some people, if you've only seen it done where some people go like, oh no, the only thing to do is you got to do your first dance right after introductions. I go, no, you don't. You absolutely don't. The things to consider is if you're like extremely stressed about it, you're like, when do we do this dance? Because I have been pinning a microphone on the groom before the ceremony. And he's like, when's the first dance? When do I do? I'm like, dude, you're about to go down the aisle. But he's so wrapped around the axle with this first dance.
Yes.
Because maybe they took lessons. Maybe it's a choreographed thing. And it's in his head like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like, he's just so.
Everyone's going to be looking at you.
Like, he just can't. He can't focus on the fact that he's about to get married and say vows to the woman to spend the rest of his life with, because he's so worried about this dance. Absolutely. I wish we could do the dance then before the ceremony, just so we could enjoy his day.
Maybe not a good idea, but
if that's something that you're really nervous about the first dance, you want to get out of the way, then we'll do So the way it works is post ceremony, we'll do cocktail hour, do all the pictures. And then we'll bring all the guests inside. We'll have them sit down. We'll say, are we ready to bring in the wedding party? Woo, here comes the wedding party. Here comes the bride and groom. And then we do the first dance right then. And sometimes father of the bride and then mother of the groom. And then we eat. Or you get introduced to the room. I'll say, one more time for the wedding party and the bride and groom. Woo. And then we all sit, maybe we do a blessing, and then we eat. So the things to consider also beyond just that, get the dance out of the way, is for the two of you at that point in the day, the two of you that just got married, you will, especially the bride, she's up before the sun for hair and makeup. And then the day is, get in the dress, get these pictures, get down the aisle, do more pictures, smile, 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 smile. And then introduce in the room, do your first dance. I mean, it's almost like the first dance, which to me is like a really significant part of the night. That is a big thing. It's your first dance as a couple. Like, it's almost like it's nice to do introduce to the room. And then for the two of you to be able to sit down for a second, get some food, get a drink, and kind of go, oh my gosh, we just got married, right? And then you get a chance. Maybe we'll do the toast. Maybe we'll cut the cake. And those are things we'll talk about here in a minute. And then now dancing together for the first time as husband and wife. It's kind of like takes it out of the madness and gives it its own special place, because we'll use that to kind of open up the dance floor.
Right. The other thing to consider is the timing, like the time of day that you're looking at. Sometimes if you're getting married really early in the day, like you have a mass at a church and then you get back to the venue and it's still fairly early, a lot of times at that point, people will do the dances right after the introduction, just so they're not eating dinner so early, I guess, if that makes sense. The other thing to consider is, are you feeding the guests during cocktail hour? Are they getting something to eat so that they're not starving waiting through the dances? So that's
just
another
like an
reason.
appetizer or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A
So
charcuterie board.
that's very, very fun. So that is a factor too, because you don't want your guests to be hangry and having to sit there to watch your dances. We've all been to events where they run long and you're like, when are we going to eat? So
because they will have been smelling the food for an hour, like, oh, it smells so good. And like, oh, now we're dancing. Oh, now she's dancing with dad. Oh, come on, I want to eat.
And they shouldn't be like that.
But you don't want them in that headspace. But you maybe have been a guest at weddings where you've been that person and you're just like, oh, God, they make us wait so long. Just keep that in mind. Like, what did you feel like when you were at a wedding? But again, this is your wedding.
Right.
So who cares what your cousin did?
But the other thing is we are mindful of our guests. You want their experience to be good. It's not all about them. It is all about you, but you still want to be mindful of their experience at your event.
Yeah. And another thing, if you want to use some of the dances to open the dance floor, you can be introduced in the room and do your first dance and then sit. And then you can dance with dad and he can dance with mom if you're doing those dances after dinner. So you can still use some of those signature dances to open the dance floor later.
Right. That is definitely an option. And we talk about this a lot because you want the flow of the event to make sense. Okay. You don't want it to be too choppy. You don't want to start and stop things. Something about dinner too, just a little tidbit. You want to give yourself a significant amount of time for dinner. A lot of times I'll have couples come to me with maybe a timeline that they created before they hired me, and it'll have like 20, 30 minutes for dinner, which is realistic if you and I are eating. But if 150 people have to be served and eat,
or more,
yeah, you definitely need to put at least an hour on your timeline for food service. It really makes sense. And then, of course, you can start things sooner if you notice that everybody's done. Maybe they're getting a little antsy. You can definitely go into toast or cut the cake. But it does really help to have a full hour of service, at least, depending on how many people you have.
Yeah, and that's a whole podcast as well. We're going to talk about the timing of things, because people say, oh, we're gonna be introduced and we're going to do 15 minutes, then we're going to do the toast. Doing toast while everyone is standing up and getting to the buffet and walking back and forth, it is very distracting.
Right.
Everyone's over there like, does this have peanuts in it? I'm allergic to peanuts. Like, and best man is trying to do his toast. People are in line for the buffet and there's clink, clank, clink, clank, clink, clank, and people are moving chairs. It doesn't work. So
the other thing that we sometimes don't like to see is do the toast like way later at night, like when everyone's drunk. It's like,
oh, that's a terrible idea.
We don't like to say that often. Honestly,
it doesn't work well. The groom is already, or the best man is already disheveled and he's drunk as can be.
Oh,
he's like,
it can really be.
Yeah. Everyone else has already been drinking. We had to stop the dance floor and the party to have everybody sit back down. It's really clunky. So I usually try to talk people out of doing the toast later in the night. Like, do them at the end of dinner works really well for that reason. Everyone's focused. They're sitting there like, oh, they got a full belly. They're like, okay, let's hear what the best man has to say. Or
it really does. And the other couple. Yeah. The other thing that works well as far as timing is concerned, is cutting the cake within that time frame, either like right after dinner before the toast or after the toast, so that the catering staff has time to cut the cake up and serve it. And then you're not stopping the dancing, like you're saying. A lot of times I've seen where they put the cake cutting way later in the night.
Why is that? Tell them the wives' tale.
So the wives' tale is that they're trying to like hold on to the cake because they think that everyone will stay if the cake hasn't been served.
Yeah, people leave after they get the cake, which I think people leave because the party's a dud. If you have a lame old DJ and they're like, we've all been there, like, wah wah, let's get some cake and get out of here, right? It's just not fun. But I always pop my collar and not in my weddings, dang it. It's gonna be a good time. But I don't think you're holding anyone hostage with a slice of cake, but the dance floor runs on momentum. Once you get it going, it's like, and
right.
then it's like,
we don't want to stop it if we can.
The photographer wants the lights to come up. The bride and groom picked a slow song. So then it just like the dance party screeches to a halt. And then what does everybody do? They sit down and eat cake. And here I am like, hey, let's get the party going again. Trying to come on, get people back on the dance floor. And it just can crush the momentum for the dance party. So I like to do that earlier and then, let them serve the cake and people can graze on it over the course of the next hour.
Right. And if anything, if you want something later, you could do like a late night snack while people are up and dancing. You can have maybe like some sweet treats that are displayed that people can grab. And that doesn't interrupt the dancing or the party at all. People just grab them and hang out and continue to dance.
Yeah. And some of the other events, I mean, you have to do bouquet and garter toss, right?
So,
of course, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Garter toss.
And this has come up so much on social media that it's so cringe. I'm not doing it, but we still see it at a tremendous amount of events.
Almost all.
So definitely don't feel, this is kind of a little like PSA. Don't feel like anything you see or hear on social media is like the gospel, because it's not.
Unless it comes from the wedding duo, of course, because we would never lead you astray.
It's definitely somebody's opinion most times, and maybe not even an experienced opinion. So when it comes to bouquet and garter, you can do them both. You can do neither of them. You can do one and not the other. You can do them in
the bouquet without the garter. I've never done the garter without the bouquet, but
true. But if you wanted to do that, that's fine too.
Wait, let me show you something else. So if you're the person, you're like, yeah, but all my friends are married. Like I have like one single girl coming and she's going to stand out there. She's 14. Like, why are you making me do this? This is really awkward.
They're worried about that.
Yeah. So what I've done before is like, there's no rules. I've never had the DJ police show up and be like, what are you doing? Those only single ladies come to the dance floor. So I have suggested to my couples, like, let's just bring out all the ladies. I guarantee you have a few aunts are like, what? I haven't caught a bouquet in 20 years. I'm going out there just to get some pictures with everybody come out. And not everybody will come out. I mean, depending on your guest, maybe they all come out, but you'll still get 15 to 20 ladies that'll be like, sure, I'll come out for the pictures because I'll MC that. I'll be like, yes, you know what? Most of her friends are married. Let's just bring all the ladies out. If you want to come out, any lady come out. And the pictures look great because you could throw it and they'll all be like, hey, try to catch it. And there's it doesn't like saying if you catch it, you're like, uh-oh, my husband's going to be mad. I caught the bouquet. Like,
we're getting divorced.
Drama, scandal. But and the same thing with the garter. You can have all the guys come out or just have a bunch of guys that are willing to come out. Guys that like me that don't care about whatever. We're like, whoopee, the fun people.
Yeah. The other thing with the garter is it doesn't have to be over sexualized. A lot of people, when they picture doing the garter, it's like this magic Mike moment. And it definitely does not have to be
Sorry,
that.
Genuine. If you're listening, love you, man.
But it can be really cute and funny, and you can toss it out the window and that can not do it at all. So,
and you don't, even if you like, oh, but I didn't order a toss bouquet, we can throw one of the bridesmaids bouquets. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the bride's bouquet, I'm like, we're going to kill somebody if we throw this big old heavy thing.
Yeah,
and
we don't want to do that.
Keepsake on there. Maybe you've got like a locket or a chain or an earrings or something that was significant, borrowed or blue. And you don't want to throw your bouquet, then throw one of the bridesmaids bouquet. But a lot of times if your florist has given you a toss bouquet, that's what that's exactly for.
Absolutely.
To toss.
Yeah.
And there you go.
The last topic we're going to cover, because we are almost out of time.
No, I have more things to say.
Is what about the exit? Do you do a faux exit or and what are the pros and cons of something like that? And when I talk about a faux exit, I'm talking about staging a photo with sparklers or whatever you're using so that the photographer can get those pictures because the photographer maybe has to leave, but then having everyone come back in and continue the party.
Yeah, it can be, again, you think the cake is disruptive to the party.
Mhm.
Doing a fake send-off or a faux send-off will really be disruptive to the party. And the disadvantage is the fake send-off often turns into an actual send-off for a lot of people. If it's late and they're like, you know what, just grab your stuff because we're going to sneak out once we go outside.
Right.
But the main thing is, if your photographer is going to be sitting around for a 3-hour dance party, people don't usually purchase the dance pictures, right?
Well,
But they want that oftentimes, and maybe you do, but they're trying to get really creative with their pictures, and there's 3 hours of the same.
and you're paying for that
Yeah,
time
you're paying for
sometimes.
that time. So
Right.
if you're trying to like saying like, man, we have got to cut some slack, something out of the budget, the photographer can leave after the first dances, maybe after the bouquet toss, and there's still 2 hours of dancing, but
Sure.
you want to get that end of the night shot. So that's the advantage. You bring everybody outside, or not everybody, but you go out, you light the sparklers, you line people up, you get that picture, and then you go back in and keep partying. It can be done with a good DJ, and the DJ has to like make that very clear.
Yes.
We're coming back in, people.
Yeah. And my solution is kind of a middle ground that I'll suggest. And what I like to do is invite just the immediate family and bridal party to do the faux send off, so that you've got enough people that the picture looks great, but you know those people are sticking around, right? Yeah, mom's not leaving. Your best girls aren't leaving. So get them out there, set them up with the sparkler, get the photo, then your photographer can leave. They'll go back in and party, and everyone else is still dancing. That is definitely a middle ground that I've suggested that has worked really well in the past, if that's something you're having to decide on.
And you can still do one at the end of the night.
Sure.
Hopefully there's, still enough people there. You can do it a second time, or you can be like, yeah, we got the pictures. And I don't want to do it again, whatever.
Right.
But the other things, like maybe your venue doesn't allow sparklers. So you can use, we have these like LED, we don't have them, but you can order them on Amazon. They look like a little pool noodle. They're a couple feet long. And they're LED lights inside. Those are kind of fun. We've seen bubbles. Those are another thing you
ribbons.
can do.
They have like these sticks
Ribbons
with
on the
like
sticks.
ribbons. We have all sorts of fun things at our Amazon shop, which is linked in our profile, that you can check out for party stuff. But
one last thing on the send off, if you do a fake send off, if people can see it happening, like it's right outside the door, there's glass there, it's not going to be just the wedding party. It's not going to be just
they
family.
feel like
everybody's going to go out. So if it's around the corner and everyone just keep the dance party going, and there's still if there's like 100 people still inside, no one will notice that the wedding party's gone and that the immediate family has gone out. But if it's half the guests are outside and then they can see the sparklers getting lit, they're like, what? Nobody told me. And they ran outside, they grab the sparkler. You're like, okay, now everybody's outside. So that happens often if they can see it. If they can see sparklers getting lit, even the guests that didn't know that it was just supposed to be a small group, they're going to go out too.
Right. So it's something to consider logistically for your venue, which brings us to our conclusion. And we're going to say, all these decisions are personal to you and your significant other, to you and your family. So please don't let anything we say here sway you one way or another. We're just here to help and give suggestions. And hopefully you've learned and taken away some good, helpful tidbits.
Yeah. And if we want to tie it back to the first look where we started, doing that fake send-off, sliding, like if your photographer has a 10-hour package and you're like, well, they got to be here till 11 o'clock at night, the 10 hours doesn't even get us back to enough time beforehand, but like slide it. Wait a minute. Now we're taking 2 hours off the dancing. Those 2 hours are before. Now we're going back. We can do our first look, get those pictures there. You're getting the most out of your time with your photographer. See
it does. It works well, and
see
that's
what I did there. See how I tied it back to the first look?
I love that.
Bam,
You're very good.
That's what we do here.
So thank you so much for joining us for episode 4. We hope that you have enjoyed everything we've said here today, and that you go back and watch our other episodes, that you subscribe. You can watch us on YouTube. Check us out on TikTok, where we are most known for our crazy
antics.
But thank you, everyone, and happy wedding planning.
So yeah, and once again, it's never been more true than on this episode. Don't let anybody talk you into anything you really don't want to do, and don't let anybody talk you out of something you have your heart set on.
Yes.
And there you go. We'll see
happy
you next
wedding
time.
planning.
Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know someone who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag the wedding duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.